And so recording is now in progress, so that those that have missed it, we'll upload it to Jodi's YouTube channel, and then you'll be able to see it. There may be a bit of a delay on the uploading on account of the fact that Hazel hasn't got any Wi-Fi, I think.
Oh, still, I haven't heard from her for a couple of days, actually. Is she still
No,
living
I
out of
haven't
cardboard
either.
boxes? Right, okay.
I haven't either, so I'm thinking the Wi-Fi hasn't been put in yet.
Right, okay.
Um, so it might be a few days before that's uploaded. Um, so has anyone got any questions for Jodi about doing time?
This is always a horrible moment when I think
It is.
nobody's got
There
any
seems to be a
questions.
there seems to be a parrot called Paul and Joe who sort of was raising his raising his beak with a question.
I have a question if Paul and the parrot can't get sound, but I'll wait for them first.
No, Paul the parrot's gone very quiet. Go on, Debbie, ask your question.
Why the seagull, Jodi? It seems like you have a thing against stuffed seagulls. From Cornwall, we have a lot of seagulls, and I just wondered if there was a sausage roll thieving incident or something that might have triggered this particular site of stuffed ornithology. That's all.
Well, when I was a very, very young, my grandmother, who was lovely, I must say, and bears absolutely no relation to Jane's grandmother at all. Um, but it was a tall, thin, three-story house. And right on the very top landing, as you came up the last flight of stairs, was a big glass case with an enormous stuffed seagull in it. Um, she was born in, I think, 1897, when the Victorian era was in full swing and stuffed animals were very, very fashionable. And she probably had a lot more at one point, but this seagull was obviously a survivor. And it used to frighten the living daylights out of me. I was only about 4 and it was taller than I was. Obviously, it went the way of all stuffed animals sooner or later, but it stayed with me. And now I live here in Gloucester and I'm quite close to the River Severn. I'm not that far away. I'm not that far away from the docks. And there are seagulls everywhere. And the little buggers wake up at 3 or 4 o'clock every morning, greet the sun with enthusiasm, yell at each other for about an hour and 45 minutes, and then copulate all over the place. So they're not my favorite animal. I'm really sorry about that. I'm very fond of most animals, but not seagulls. And then they crap all over everybody's car as well. So it's like wasps. If there is a good point to seagulls, I've yet to find it. So yes, this is the author taking out her own personal dislikes in print. Sorry about that.
No, that is perfectly understandable, and I feel the same way. I like them. I like them at a distance. I don't like them in my car or my laundry, but
no,
they were
they're
here
very
first. But yeah,
atmospheric when they're wheeling around the sky with their unearthly cries and they're a mile away.
at a
And
distance, yeah.
I'm quite fond of them. But you know, you're right. It is perfectly possible that you can get your sausage roll pinched if you're not paying attention.
Perfect. Thank you very much indeed.
You're welcome.
Sidebar here from Carol M, who's got a question or a thing about Christmas pie. She said, "So you're a fan of The Princess Bride with the dread historian Roberts?"
I've been waiting for ages to use that line.
I can imagine. I thought the same when I read it.
Yes.
Um,
Go on. Sorry.
I've got a question about Jane's grandma because I know her. And I just wondered if your life had been that bad that you'd been subjected to somebody like that. I'm not saying it's your grandma because you said your grandma was lovely, but you must have met some really horrible people to have come up with that character.
No, I I wouldn't say that Jane's grandmother is based on anyone I know, or modelled on anyone at all. The whole point of Jane's grandmother was to give her a very good reason for running away to join the time police, and also my own personal revenge on the seagull.
When I'm I need to unmute when I'm talking to. Brilliant. Thank you for that.
I have a question.
Yes.
Christine and Hazel. I think Hazel was first, and then we'll come to Christine. Go on, Hazel.
What stage of St Mary's series did you decide that Matthew was going to go into Time Police, and obviously Max was going to be somewhat disturbed by the whole thing, or was it always planned when you were going to do the Time Police?
I love the way people think I plan things. Thank you so much. It's so lovely of you all actually to think that. I had thoughts of doing a Time Police series because I was writing St Mary's one day and just suddenly thought, how irritating must they be to hardworking time police officers? And having thought that, I then needed a bridge between St Mary's on the one side and Time Police on the other. And although I'd done it a little bit with Van Owen when she went off, and excuse me, with North as well, I had this idea that Matthew, especially being born as he was, might find a time police career extremely interesting. So I sat and thought about that for a while. And then, of course, I had to give him companions or colleagues or teammates. Jane was easy, actually. Luke was a little bit more difficult. And I don't know if it shows in my writing, but over the series, I have become very fond of Luke. You can tell I like him a lot because he suffers so much in every book. If I don't like you, you're fine. If you're one of my favorite characters, you go through hell, I'm afraid.
Christine, and then Glynis, and then I'll do Nick has commented on something in the sidebar, which I'll then mention after we've done Christine and Glynis. So Christine, you're next.
Thank you very much. I've just spent the day babysitting. This is an aside. I've spent the day babysitting my 4-year-old twin grandsons. One of them came out with an expletive, and now they're all running around the living room at home shouting "fire truck."
I noticed actually when I was bringing up my own offspring, there is something about swear words, isn't there, that just rolls off the tongue. That's what they do.
Yes.
And I can always remember my son racing round and round and round nursery school shouting bugger, 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 bugger.
Yes.
About 3. It was one of the first words he said, actually, which doesn't say much for his upbringing, does it?
No, well, I'm waiting now for his mother to say, "Why are they all shouting fire truck at me?" So,
Yeah.
my question to you is, when you introduced Henry Plimpton to right at the beginning, did you intend for him to be developed into the Bond villain that he became?
No, I didn't, because again, that implies planning ahead, and I think we've all agreed that that doesn't really happen. It was as I was pondering the identity of Mr. P, and I was suddenly realizing how many characters in the Time Police had surnames beginning with P. I was really spoilt for choice, and I have to say, Pennyroyal hovered perilously near the brink for quite some time. And then I can remember the moment I was sitting up in bed reading, and the thought just came from nowhere. And I thought, yep, I'll have him. He'll be good. So I went for him.
Excellent. Excellent choice of villain.
Thank you.
Fire truck.
To go with that question, Joe Tatsab's actually asked, how do you choose the names apart from the joke possibilities with Luke? So that sort of goes with that a bit.
Most names just, seriously, this actually happens. They just flow from my pen as I'm writing. So I'm writing away, and the name just comes. And if that happens, I know it's a good name and it's going to be a good character and everything's going to be fine. There have been one or two instances, and I'm sorry, I can't recall them off the top of my head, where I haven't actually been able to get the name right at all. And I've gone through the book several times, you know, and you find and then you replace, and I try all these variations. And if that happens, then I know I'm going to have problems with the character. It doesn't happen very often, but it does happen, I'm afraid, and I struggle sometimes.
Thank you. Glynis, you're next, and then Leslie.
Hello. Jodi, first of all, again, thank you so much for doing these chats. I still can't believe that someone who's written as many books and as popular as you are deigns to socialize with your fans like this. So thank you so much for that. I did have a question.
Can I just say, actually, it's very kind of you to thank me, but I find it very beneficial. Writing is quite a lonely thing to do. You do it all by yourself, and there's often no one around to bounce ideas off. And it is very nice and very good for me as well to realize that there is actually an outside world and there are other people in it, and I should interact occasionally. So thank you all very much indeed.
That was my second comment, was you are a hoot. You are absolutely delightful. You are a hoot. I can't tell you how often I laugh out loud at your books. I did have a question, but I think you've already answered it. I wasn't going to ask it today, but at another time. It was the St. Mary's question about, did you know who Markham was going to be from the get-go? And I think you've already answered that. You don't plan ahead like that. So I think your surprise reveals are inspirational. I love them. And then,
they're a surprise to me as well sometimes.
Well, you've got a good thing going, so they seem to be working. And then just a couple quick comments, if I can. I laughed out loud at Luke, I am your father. That was
yes,
hysterical. Thank you for not killing the rabbit, for letting anything bad happen to the rabbit. Thank you. And at St. Mary's comment, I had just finished book 13, in which Max is talking to Matthew. He's nervous about his exams. And it was just simply brilliant the way Max didn't just do the usual platitude, oh, I think you'll be fine, you'll do this, because what pressure does that put on?
yeah, it's terrible, isn't it?
It really is. And a few days later, I had the opportunity to actually do that with a friend of mine who was speaking on a panel at a little conference. And before her panel, she was, I'm so nervous, I'm so nervous. And the urge was to say, oh, you'll do fine. But I didn't. And I did exactly what you had Max do with Matthew, is what makes you the most nervous. And so we talked through what made her the most nervous. She did a great job. And afterwards, she gave me a big hug and thanked me for helping to calm her down and to give her some really sound advice to help her get over her nerves. She didn't say for just saying you'll do fine, but clearly what I did, which is what you had Max do with Matthew, did the trick for her. So just another instance of something in your book has affected my life and somebody else in it to the positive. So thank you again.
Well, thank you. That has happened to me, because most things terrify me. And Hazel especially will bear out that anytime I'm in front of a public performance, I'm round the back or in the wings and I'm whittering away, and she always has to make sure to stand between me and the exit in case I make a bolt for it. But it is not reassuring to hear, oh, you'll be fine, I'm sure you'll do well, it's going to be wonderful, because all that does is add pressure, really. Because now here's somebody else expecting you to do well and be wonderful, and it doesn't help. And I thought, when I was writing the scene, because Max is a very practical person anyway, and she would look for a way to find out exactly what was agitating Matthew so much. And it's something positive and specific and focused help for him. So I enjoyed writing that very much, and I particularly enjoyed the take me, I am yours" sentence. That was good fun to write as well, although I'm pretty sure that'll never make it into any English textbook.
Probably not, but it was really wonderful to read, and thank you again for all
Thank
your
you.
book and your wonderful sense of humor.
Thank you.
Leslie is next. Would you like to ask your question?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. About Jane's feet. I mean, I have several things going through my mind. My first was old-fashioned foot binding, which I know is wrong, but did Grandma beat her feet? I mean, I feel so sorry for Jane. She's such a lovable character.
I know what Granny did. I'm unsure whether to reveal it or to keep it for something later on. I've had some thoughts that maybe she and Grint might sit down and have a chat about some things in general, and possibly feet in particular. It would be just like those two to spend a romantic evening talking about feet, don't you think? But yes, I right from the get-go, I've known what's wrong with Jane's feet, and it will be revealed in due course. I just haven't quite made up my mind yet. Author indecision, I'm afraid.
Well, thank you. Thank you for Grint and Jane together. It's been wonderful to watch the Time Police characters come out the way the St. Mary's characters have. So it's really good to see them growing.
Thanks again, honey.
Thank you.
Debbie, you're next, then Cheryl, then John.
What'd you say?
Deb's pick next, then Cheryl, then John. I've got. Susan, have you got your hand up down there? No, I'll mute you then.
Jodi, hello again. Chicken and the egg question, I suppose. And apologies if you covered this in the chat that I've missed on the forum. Did you first decide to write a Time Police book and then, oh, Matthew be the perfect person to put in? Or did you think, oh, I want to make something more of Matthew. Let's put him in the Time Police and make it fun?
No, the Time Police came first. Matthew was the bridge between them. I thought he would be the most successful character to transplant from one to the other. So yes, he is a bridge. And also in the first few books, rather than have the Time Police stand on their own, St. Mary's, sorry, was involved in several of their adventures. Gradually, that's becoming less and less. I think the Time Police now is strong enough to stand on its own, but that's not to say that St. Mary's won't be crashing through the ceiling at any point in the future.
Okay, so sorry, secondary question because I'm greedy. The moment you thought the name Luke, were you planning to put the Star Wars line in there somewhere, or was that just a light bulb moment at 3 o'clock? You were doing it from the beginning. Perfect.
No, don't laugh. I wrote nearly the whole book around Luke, I am your father.
Line.
Talk about making things difficult for yourself.
It works. I think we can all agree it works.
Yes.
So no, that's fine.
And
Thank you very much.
I saw a comment from Joe as well. The other one I wanted to use was use the fork, Luke.
Yes. Brilliant. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Cheryl, you're next.
Okay, excuse me. You've said several times that you really don't plan ahead, but then I'm not. But you also said last time that you know your ending. So do you just kind of your ending, and you have to sort of figure out how to get there?
Yes. I get pictures in my head along with the voices, which Hazel says I mustn't mention to people.
Oh, I love those.
And I'll see a scene. And I think, yes, that's good. I could end the book on that, or nearly end the book on that. And then the next few days, weeks, whatever, are me working backwards from that. Okay, that's where they finish up. That's how they got there. That's how they got there. That's when they said that. That's what that happened. Which makes it sound a lot smoother than it actually is. And sometimes I end up with a lot of disjointed stuff, which is all individual, crackingly good scenes, but somehow I've got to sew it all together and make some sort of coherent book.
Well, again, secondary question. Do you have someone that helps? It drives me crazy when I read some other authors and it's a series, and they have something glaringly wrong or out of place, and yours so seamlessly go together, at least to my readers.
I'd love to smirk and say, oh, thank you. But actually, I have staggeringly good world-class editors. I have Frankie Edwards, who is world-class, and manages to hold it all in her head better than I do. And she will occasionally say, no, I think you said in book 7 that he had grey eyes. And I think, oh. And then there's Sharona, who is my copy editor and general safety net, who will point out various things that I've got wrong, facts that I've got wrong, because I do make mistakes. I do a lot of research, but I make mistakes. I think everybody does. So Sharona picks those up as well. And then on top of that, the proofreader has a go. You know, so I'm bombarded on all sides. It takes longer to get a manuscript through the process than it does actually to write it. Well, for me anyway.
Wow.
It takes me about 6 months to write, and it takes a little over 6 months for Headline to do all their bits and pieces to it. And then, of course, Zara can't record it until the text is completed. Excuse me. So we've got to get that right before she can even get going. And I've just finished the Killing Time final proof. So Zara's probably going to be getting that any day now. And I know, I'm not sure whether I should say this or not, so I have to swear you all to secrecy or possibly kill you instead. I think Headline are considering having White Silence and Dark Light re-recorded by Zara for consistency's sake. It was just unfortunate with that series that COVID intervened, and the person who made a really good job of reading the first one got long COVID and was unable to continue. So Audible got another one, and of course, because of COVID, there wasn't the choice that there had been. And it seemed when I wrote Long Shadows, the third one, that there would be yet another reader, and it was Hazel who brilliantly suggested that we get Zara to do it. So Headline might re-record the first 2 for consistency's sake.
Okay, real quickly, you dislike coffee and milk, am I right in that assumption?
Yes.
Okay.
I hate milk. I suffered agonies at school because big burly dinner ladies used to stand over me shouting, "You're not moving until you've drunk that milk."
Lactose intolerant, probably.
Yeah, it took ages for people to discover that I wasn't actually getting any schooling in the afternoon because I was still sat there staring at my milk. And I've never liked coffee. And it always used to make me laugh that my dad, bless him, he was 97 when he died. And almost to the day he died, he was still saying, "Can I make you a coffee?" And I was saying, "No, Dad, I don't like coffee. I've never liked coffee." So, you know, parents, eh?
Okay. Thank you.
This is next. Do you want to unmute, John?
Oh,
he's gone. Oh, there he is.
No, I think I am unmuted, aren't I? Am I?
No, I can hear you.
Oh, well, there we go. First of all, I do virtual calls all day, every day. It's my job. And this is really weird and freaks me out, and I'm not at all wow. So can I just first repeat what everyone said? Thank you for doing this. This is amazing and love you to bits. Having said that, what I've got to say sort of ties in with the whole Zara thing. I've never read any of your books. I've had Zara read all of them to me, and I tend to listen to them while I'm in the car. So I've kind of got a complaint because you've nearly killed me. You threatened to kill us all earlier, but you've nearly killed me several times. One was
really?
A car crash with a director. One was an exploding garden shed with a young member of the Time Police. Can you stop trying to kill me? Because I have to keep pulling over to compose myself.
No,
right,
sorry.
Okay. My second demand is, can you please fall out of love with Matthew? Because I'd quite like him to have a happy time of it. I'm okay with you being mean to Luke, but Matthew, oh, bless him.
Yes, yes, I have plans for Matthew, which I'm not going to divulge. So there's no point in all of you sitting there looking pathetic and winning and sad, because I'm not going to tell you. But yes, I do have plans for Matthew.
Well, do you know, we must all be quite used to it, because I read one of the Christmas stories and had to stop and text a friend to say, she isn't really going to kill all those children on Christmas, you know, the whole thing. And we both agreed that actually dead orphans on Christmas would pretty much be on point for you. And
Yeah,
yeah, you wear that with a
yeah.
badge of pride, and I think that's
I-
brilliant.
I can't believe anybody would actually believe that I wouldn't kill a ton of children on Christmas Day. I mean, come on, people.
Yeah, I was down with it. I was quite pleased that you didn't, but thank you. And again, before I finish, I haven't got any secondary questions because I kind of didn't have a primary one. But thank you for doing this. This is just
No,
amazing.
you're very, very welcome. It's lovely to meet you all. It really is. And I see all your names come up on the Facebook page as well. It's lovely to put faces to names. None of you look anything like I imagined you, but that's probably a good thing.
You came up on my Facebook and said, people you might know, do you want to add as a friend? And I was like, oh, I bloody wish I did. But can I press the friend button? Is that really weird? Because
I had a bit of a bad experience with Facebook friends when the Jodi page first went up, and several people wrote to me and said you've got somebody on your page that really shouldn't be. So
wow.
I'm sorry, it's nothing personal now, but I don't actually respond to friend requests, but I do like you all very much.
That's completely great. I mean, I didn't press it because I thought a friend that I've never actually met or spoken to, that seems like not a friend. But it's fantastic to do this. So thank you for your time.
No, nice to meet you.
Thank you very much, and thank you for coming along. I think it's the first time you've been. So we do this every month, so you're welcome.
I've watched several of them, and yeah, like I say, really anxious about talking to the person who pretty much captivated all of my driving life for the last year. So yeah,
And has tried to kill you on several occasions as well. Don't
and
forget
again, first time I've joined this, you immediately threatened to kill me again. You know what?
There's a theme, isn't there?
Yeah.
I think he's got Stockholm syndrome. Sarah Helen Snow, it's you next. You've got to unmute, darling. Has she unmuted yet? No. She's talking away.
Right, sorry about that. I'm on my phone because my computer's decided it doesn't need to actually let me hear or talk. So my question, Jodi, is following on from what you were saying about wanting to do the Luke, I am your father. Have you ever got into trouble trying to do any of these? You know, do you have to pay copyright to Wally Brains who say, no, you can't say that because it's mine?
I have put things in, and Frankie, henceforth to be known as Frankie the Wonderful, will put a comment in the margin when she's editing to check with the legal department. I think you can use one line of a song once, but no more. And of course, a lot of it has expired copyright anyway. I wouldn't put things in just to upset the legal department, because that would be very, very wrong, and I wouldn't do that. But there is actually a song in Killing Time which is rendered under completely inappropriate circumstances, which I very much hope will make an impact on people, and I'm not saying any more.
Fair enough. We shall wait agog for June for Killing Time. Carol M is next, followed by Christine. So Carol, you're next, my lovely.
Hello. Oh, you can hear me. Yes, but going back to the previous comment, the Cooper-Hofstadter principle, I love that. We are big Bang Theory fans here. The question is, are you thinking of bringing other St. Mary's into the Time Police? thinking
Um,
Pinky.
I don't know. I hadn't actually thought of it. At the back of my mind, something's saying it's nearly time for another Pinky story. So that's festering away. But I don't have. I think it's called crossover, isn't it? I don't have any specific plans for any crossovers at the moment. Having said that, never say never again. No sooner did I say to Frankie, my editor, no, I'm getting old and I only want to do one book a year from now on, if that's all right. To which she said, yes, that's fine. I churned out 3 books in quick succession afterwards. So as soon as I say never, ideas start flashing into my head. And I've really shot myself in the foot now because headline think that 1 book a year means 3. Actually, so I haven't done myself any favors there. But this year, yes, 2024 should be a good year. They've sent me a list of publications and I have 2 full-length novels and 2 short stories coming out. Oh, and they've asked me to start thinking about the Christmas story as well, even though it's only January.
I've got another question. Well, a comment. I do like the way that characters develop. So a character you think is really nice turns out not to be. And then thinking of Luke, I'm your father, how he goes, no spoilers here, how he changes over the books that you think, not nice. And then you think, oh, actually. So I do like that the characters are not set. They change, they develop.
I don't think he changed so much. It was more that the reader had a greater insight into his life and what's happened to him and the reasons and the great burden that he actually carries. And again, I'm not going to say anything in case anybody hasn't got that far in the series yet. But he has got quite a lot on his plate. And with Luke heading so determinedly towards rehab and jail and moral decay and everything, I think he saw Luke initially as yet another problem to be added to the ones he'd already got. And Luke, of course, is not, bless him, blessed with insight or probably compassion. And he saw no further than the harsh, unyielding, rather rigid father. So their relationship was not good. I'm hoping it will improve. Although this is Luke, so you never know, do you?
I've got a question in the sidebar, which I'm going to just bring in before I come to Christine, which is from Charlie, who can't unmute at the moment. She wants to know how much of the nature of Matthew's particular weirdness is going to be revealed, or is he going to remain a bit of a conundrum?
Well, I do like an element of mystery because it's great cover for the fact that the author is not really sure in which direction to go with that. Killing Time pushes it on a little bit further and has some bits about Matthew that I hope people will like. So we'll see what happens. He does have an ultimate destination. I just don't quite know how to get him there yet, but something will occur to me.
I've got visions of him just loving his life at the time map. Christine is next.
I've got a question that's similar to the Luke, I am your father. Did you also plan the Star Trek reference that Max makes when she's dealing with a shot Major Ellis?
Oh, no, I didn't. It just came to me as I was writing. You know, Bones was always saying, damn it, Jim, I'm a doctor. So I just thought I'd turn that round and have a bit of fun. I don't know if you're supposed to do these sort of things or not, but it certainly brightens up my working day.
It was brilliant. I laughed out loud. It was brilliant. Bones being one of my favourite characters.
Thank you very much for that.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
And I love that she does this. I love it. I absolutely, every time I read and I get these little other, like The Princess Bride or Star Trek or Star Wars, because we all like the same sort of stuff, don't we? Really?
I think either it's Hard Time or Saving Time. I can't remember. But Major Ellis does issue the instruction, open the pod bay doors, Dal.
Yes, yes, I spotted that as well. And on the side, you've made me into what is a Jodi drug dealer. My friend was looking for a book to read, and I forced her to go everywhere on the internet to find your first St Mary's book. And I keep harassing her and saying, where have you got to? Where have you got to?
Well, thank you very much for that. A grateful author says yes. Thank you.
Sarah Pennington's just said we're going to need a bigger net to catch all these fans. Debbie, it's you again.
Yeah, sorry, third question, and about the number 3. I know 3 is a big number in fairy tales and 3 wishes, 3 witches, you know. Did you always intend to have 3 co-leads in the time, or is it Matthew plus 1 that you thought it'd be more fun to put a third wheel on the bicycle kind of thing? What was it always be Matthew plus 2 to make an interesting dynamic?
It was always going to be Matthew plus 2. Well, it was going to be Matthew, and then I thought of companions, colleagues for him, and I stopped at 3. It never occurred to me actually to add in a 4th, even when I said the normal number of people in the Time Police team is 4. It never occurred to me. I know I bunged in the awful Sarah Smith at the end, but she was always going to be temporary. She was never going to be permanent. And of course, there's just nobody wants to join Team 236, so there'll always be 3, I'm afraid.
The perfect team weird. I think we're all quite happy there. I also think Ellis is sort of the unofficial 4th member when they need a backup or senior and who likes them. He's the kind of number 3.5 almost. He's not official, but he's kind of there.
That's about to change. You'll have to read Killing Time to see what happens.
I will be doing so. Brilliant. Thank you very much.
Excellent. Thank you.
Well, he's Uncle Ellis at the moment, still in the first book. Ali Twist has said she's holding out for your next Christmas story to be called Matthew, Markham, Luke and Jane.
The title is already noted. I've got the title. I just need to think about it. This year's Christmas story will be a St Mary's one. We're arguing about the title at the moment. I have my title and everybody else has theirs. So it'll be interesting to see how this pans out.
So Glynis has got another question for you.
Just if nobody else has a question that hasn't spoken yet. Jodi was wondering if you ever would like to go back to a previous book that's already been published and out there and change something. Have you ever wished that you could go back and change something?
Yes, actually, if I can talk about Frogmorton Farm for a moment. I thought it was such a clever idea in the first book to name Jenny's horse that Russell gave her Thomas, the same as the Thomas. And of course, as soon as I came to write other short stories and other books, I realized what a stupid thing I'd done, because if I didn't want the reader to become terribly confused, I had to go into pages and pages of exposition about who the other Thomas was and not to be confused with the first. So if I had my time again, I would not call the second Thomas, I would call him something else. It's caused me endless problems, which I solve in typical Taylor fashion by just ignoring them and writing around the subject and not actually getting to grips with it at all.
Fair enough. Thank you.
Thank you.
I've lost the plot with the order, but according to my screen, it's Carol and then Leslie. So go on, Carol.
Right. I wonder if it's a British thing about calling family friends uncle and aunt. My 2 daughters, who are in the 30s, only call favourite family friends aunt and uncle. They don't actually call their actual aunts and uncles aunt and uncle. They just refer to them by their Christian. But their godparents and other close friends, they say aunt or uncle. So I do love that. It's is it a typically British thing, or American friends?
I'm of the generation where you addressed adults as Mr. or Mrs. But if you knew them well or they were friends of your parents or you saw a lot of them, then they were Uncle Jackie and Uncle Keith and Auntie Jackie or Uncle Mary or whatever. You never ever addressed adults by their first name. That got you a swift clip round the side of the head and sent to your room to think about what you'd done, which of course I never did.
Right, I think we've got Leslie next again, and then Cheryl again.
Okay, first of all, when I was a child in America, our neighbors were aunt and uncle. When my son was young, my best friends were aunts to him. Now, when he got to being old enough that he could address them on a normal nature, he just shifted to first names, but he started out with aunt and uncle. Okay, 2 questions regarding Time Police. And I've forgotten one of them, so we'll just go to the second one. Jeffrey, do we just hate the name Jeffrey, or is Max's Jeffrey the same as Emmy's Jeffrey?
Yeah, it's this. Jeff is Jeffrey. I think I've confused people by doing it the wrong way round. The later adventure comes first and the earlier adventure comes last. But Jeff and Jeffrey are definitely the same unpleasant person. And of course, he does get his comeuppance in the end.
Yeah.
So, yes. I don't honestly think I've got anything against the name Jeffrey, not knowingly anyway. No, I don't. It was just I liked the name Jeff and Jeffrey for a villain. That was the way that came about.
Okay, and I remembered my second question, and it's just
Okay.
silly, and it's from being over here instead of over there. I know several of the geographic locations that you've stated in London, but Startled Hamster?
Yes.
Is that really anything, or is it just made up?
I am so tempted to say that it's a staggering new building and it won an award and people come from all over the world to see it. But it was just me pissing about, quite honestly, and probably thoroughly irritating my editor at the same time. The box of tissues is also not an actual building. It's just that in London, we call our buildings the cheese grater or the gherkin or whatever. And I just thought, no, I've got to go with the box of tissues and the startled hamster. There may be more to come in future. Depends what sort of mood I'm in at the time.
Love it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Right, we have Hazel has her hand up. I can see you, Hazel. But Cheryl had her hand up before you. So Cheryl, Hazel, then Sally, then John. And meanwhile, also, can I send regards to everybody from Officer Clint, who has been unable to get here and has just Facebook messaged me.
I just wanted to go back on the, when I was a young person here in Kansas, in other states, it was aunt for friends of my parents. I'm now sort of the neighborhood grandmother at our local swimming pool. And I have noticed that some mothers, I introduce myself to the children as Cheryl, using my name, but some of the mothers always refer to me as Miss Cheryl.
Oh, so that's interesting.
Yeah, so they obviously want to have, since I am quite a bit older, as I had a 3-year-old tell me, "You're old," with her mother just going, But no, so that might be something that the newer generation is doing.
It might well be. As far as I know, everybody's aunt or uncle for very young children. I think there comes a time when you instinctively feel that it would be all right to address people by their first names. And some of my aunts and uncles, most of whom are dead now, sort of said to me when I was round about 2021, "Oh, don't bother with the aunt and uncle bit." And I too have said to my nephews, "Oh, for God's sake, don't call me aunt." So maybe it's slowly falling from use. I don't know.
Yeah. Oh, and North is my favorite character. I wanted to tell you, I wanted to see more North. North
Okay.
You know,
Okay,
I
duly
admire you,
noted.
you have done lovely things with her, and I like to see her progression into a human being.
Okay, then, duly noted.
Hazel Broomfield, you're next.
It was the I don't know if everybody else felt the same way, but when we had St Mary's, Time Police were horrible. They were the real evil. And then all of a sudden we're faced with the Time Police, the one we just obviously read. And it took me ages to actually like them. But now, having read 3 books, and now they seem to have had a transition from being, the heavy gang to actually human beings. And so it's having the the 3 weird good team weird in them, or whether it actually is transgression into a more sort of friendly approach to policing.
Well,
And I
firstly,
enjoyed it. It's really enjoyable.
I deliberately set out, once I decided I was going to write the series, I deliberately set out over, I think, 1 or 2 St Mary's books to make them not very nice people. Sorry about this, but I deliberately set myself the challenge to make them unpleasant people and then introduce a new series and get my readers to like these people. I think they haven't changed so much, but now the reader gets an insight into the way their thought processes work. And particularly in doing time, I wanted to emphasize the sacrifices that they've made to get on top of the time wars, because they did good work there, and how heavy their losses had been. And I wanted to introduce the stop the clock ritual as well, where they remembered those who had fallen during the time wars. So when you see things from that point of view, know what they've been through, they don't seem, I think, quite so bad. And then, of course, Commander Hay came along with a completely different mindset to that of Colonel Albay. And the Time Police have more or less won the peace of the time wars, and they need now to become a different organization. The old shoot everybody in sight and set fire to what's left policy is fine when you're fighting for your life on a day-to-day basis, but when you've got the upper hand and you're slowly winning the war, you need to adjust to changing circumstances. So that was the story behind making them horrible and then slowly redeeming them almost.
Yes, you did.
They are quite nice people, some of them.
Yes.
1 or 2 of them aren't, but some of them are. And I keep thinking every now and then, every time I mention the cleanup crews, I think about maybe thinking of a story that would involve a cleanup crew, because they're barely sentient according to the rest of the Time Police. So it would be interesting to see what I could make of them.
I love Hayes' sense of humour, particularly when she's dealing with anybody that's associated with St Mary's. It's just she really
I have to say, the short story where Pinky goes to Mars and Commander Hay is just getting the news that St Mary's have been to Mars.
Oh, that's my favourite.
And the dialogue between her and Captain Farrington, I just loved writing that. It was such fun. He manages her and she lets him.
I have quoted that so many times to people because it's just so funny. You mean to say that you were there when first man landed on the moon? Oh, well, we've already had a trial run.
Yeah, and she has no idea what she's done, does she?
No,
She has no idea that she was the first person on the moon and the first person on Mars.
Yeah, just stood there and then let it sink in. It's brilliant, absolutely brilliant, that one.
And they fluttered the flag as well, just to add to the chaos.
Now we know. Now we know why the flag. It was St Mary's.
Yeah.
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Hazel. We've got Sally and then John still to go.
Hi.
So Sally.
Hi, everybody. So one of the first things as far as the names that we were all talking about with Aunt and all that, I grew up in New York State. I still live here my whole life. We've never did the Miss, the Aunt. It was always Mr. and Mrs. until they were old enough to tell you, or we were old enough to say, don't call me that anymore. Never anything else. But I just wanted to say probably my favorite part is the final scene when Raymond Parrish comes to try and get Luke out. And I just love the fact that, as far as I'm concerned, it was always his intention. He just wanted him to stay there. And he knew if I stormed in and said, "You're coming home," he'd say, "No, I'm not." And and I could just imagine him laughing as his Luke, the Parrish smile as he leaves the building. Ha ha, I did it. He's still in. So that's always my thought.
I wrote the whole thing simply so that I could say, "Luke, I am your father." And that headline off again. And I had to research the actual line. And in the film, the actual line is, "No, I am your father." So I was able to get away with, "Luke, I am your father." Everybody knew what I meant anyway. And the quote fitted better. Fitted the story better. But yeah, I must admit, I was grinning my head off when I wrote that.
Yes. And then will we ever know, as far as Henry Plimpton's family, half of me is like, well, was that whole thing a setup? Will we ever find out the truth behind that? Or was there, at one point at least, a real affection for the family? Or were they just his cover?
You will find out what happens to Henry Plimpton's family.
Okay. Well, I mean, okay. I wasn't sure, okay, if we could reference that or not, but
I'm always, I'm quite happy to gabble away, but it does occur to me that not everybody's read that far ahead. So okay. I try not to spoil things.
Exactly. I didn't want to go there either. So, okay, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sally. And John.
Hi, again, fitting in with the theme of the characters not changing, but us getting a greater insight and the other characters getting a greater insight into each other. Have you ever considered having Team Weird be in the background during some of Max's more difficult adventures and sort of observing, so we as the readers get to see a story that we've already read, seen through the eyes of Team Weird as they're watching it unfold, to give Matthew an idea of some of the things his mom's been through?
Not in that combination, no. I'm just finishing the second edits for Small Hope from Pennyroyal at the moment, and there are some scenes in it where events that have already occurred in other books are seen from different points of view. It is interesting, and I do have plans to bring together St. Mary's and the Time Police in one book, possibly. I'm having a think about the format at the moment, whether it should be told by Max, whether it should be told in the third person by the Time Police, which does give me greater freedom to describe scenes that there aren't actually a witness to, or whether to do a mix or what. It's something I need to talk with Hazel and Frankie about, that I could bounce ideas off. But I've definitely got an idea for merging the two, and it won't be a Time Police story where St. Mary's turn up or vice versa. It will be, right from the word go, a story that combines both of them. Either they'll kill each other or come out with a greater understanding, I hope.
That sounds amazing. And if I can put my vote in, can we have Markham narrate it? Because actually I do like him as a very unreliable and quite biased narrator. So my vote would be for him. That's not going to happen, but that would be my vote.
He's always great fun to write a short story for, because he rambles on, and he makes himself out to be such a clown. But actually, I hope I managed to give the impression that he's actually fairly bright.
That was the only thing that I would have any issue with, was when the Time Police got the drop on Markham in Rome. And I thought, he's there, because he can do no wrong as far as I'm concerned.
I'm so glad that I rose him from the dead in the first book, because I killed him off halfway through, and I think that would have been a big mistake. He was never actually destined to become a major character, but being Markham, of course, he's just muscled his way in, and shouldered everybody aside. And I think people would not be happy with a St. Mary's book in which he did not play a large part.
Eventually, we're going to go far enough into the future to see him as the director, I'm sure.
That is a thought. I'm not saying any more.
That would be a St. Mary's I'd want to work at.
Yes, yes. It would be interesting, whether he would become a responsible person overnight or continue in the way that he does, in which case St. Mary's might have only hours to live.
You are a tease, all of these little tidbits.
I know. I
and
know.
I've listened to other of these, and you say, yeah, 6 months to write, 6 hours to read, and yeah.
Come on, people, give me a chance.
Yeah, I'm sure we'll all wait impatiently, but we will all wait. But thank you again.
Well, as I say, 2 full-length books this year. Sorry, I got so used to saying next year. So lots to read this year.
Exciting news. Thank you for talking to us.
Thank you.
Right, I think we're pretty much there now. I don't think we've got any more questions. Oh, we do. Glynis has another question. Go on, Glynis. Get in there quick.
Just wanted to say, Jodi, that yes, I think you have made it very clear that Markham is much smarter than he actually lets on. In fact, in one of the books, I think you said he likes to, or Max says he likes to play the clown, but he actually really knows what he's doing. And I think yes, you've made that pretty clear through his actions and his behaviors and the outcomes. I love his clowning behavior, and oh my gosh, the pink outfit. When they, oh my gosh, that was hysterical. That was an absolute hoot. But
Rose.
Sorry, Rose. When push comes to shove, Markham comes through exactly the way he's supposed to, and I think you've made that abundantly clear.
I think, yes, it's clever camouflage, and I think his earlier years contributed to the need for it. I haven't actually said so, but his earlier years were not easy for him. I mean, he did finish up given the choice of the army or prison, so he's obviously been a fairly bad boy in his youth. But I like to think of him, he spent the time acquiring the skills that stand him in such good stead at St. Mary's. I mean, they're made for each other, aren't they?
Oh, they are. And thank you for not totally killing him off in the beginning. Yeah, I think that was a very good move on your
time. I think actually, I think I've had to promise somewhere that I won't kill off Markham. I'm pretty sure somebody held me up and said, no, you can't kill him off. And I had to buy my life by promising not to kill him.
I would agree with that. Please don't kill Markham off.
I will not kill Markham off. How about that?
Excellent. We have it in a recording, people. She will not kill Markham off. Thank you, Jodi.
Thank you.
Right, that's it then. Brilliant. Next month, because it's Valentine's Day, Hazel thought it would be really fun if we all read A Bachelor Establishment.
Oh yes, I need to read that anyway, so thank you very much.
However, it's only 200 odd words, so it's very short. So I'm wondering whether we can squeeze in the Second Time Police book as well. What do we all think? So shall we do A Bachelor Establishment first and then follow that up with the Second Time Police book? Brilliant. Everybody's happy with that. It looks like lots of nodding. And I will announce it in the Jodi World group with, I've now got to put the date, where are we, Marianne? What date did we say was best? 25th.
February 25th, because
25th of February.
on the 3rd, so I can't do the 3rd.
Is the 25th of February all right with you, Jodi?
I'm just having a look. Look at me with my diary. Guess what I got for Christmas? 25th 5th Sunday. Yes, that's fine. 7
At about,
o'clock.
again, 7 o'clock. Yes, I think that's
Yeah.
good. Because
Yep.
I've had people saying, give us more notice of when you're going to do this so they don't have other things planned in. So if I do it the month before each month, then everybody knows.
Yep, yep. You're in my diary now, so there's no escape.
Thank you so much for your time again. You've been
Thanks.
brilliant.
It's a pleasure. It always is a pleasure. Thank you very much.
And for those of you that have noted, we are going to be announcing something very exciting very soon about another event at Bosworth
yes,
Field.
Yes, yes.
Check your email, please, Mrs. Taylor. and
I will, yeah.
and I'll see you all again next month. Thank you very much. Thanks, Jodi. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Take
you.
care, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Thank you, Karen.